What if I told you that the reason you're hard stuck in League of Legends is your runes? Not the ones you're taking, but the way you're playing around them. Luckily, I'm here to make this guide for you guys today to teach you everything there is to know about playing with your runes and how to get the maximum effect out of them in every single one of your games. And be sure to go check out my Metafy, where you can get a free 30-minute live coaching session with me. Otherwise, be sure to head over to myzar.gg, where I've written League of Legends guides that help you in-game, in real time, while you play. Check out this replay from Korean Master Tier and watch as this Tryndamere goes absolutely nuts beating on the enemy at level 1. And ask yourself, why is it that he can do this? Of course, his champion is great because he builds up rage and gets crits, but that's not the real reason. The real reason is his keystone. He now has fully stacked lethal tempo, and watches every time Cho orders him, he can hit him back twice. The exact same thing can be seen in the same game, but this time in bot lane. Varus has lethal tempo while Lucian only has press the attack, meaning that in a long trade, Varus will win. Even though this fight starts out terribly from blue team, with Amuma being half health, Varus will still win the long trade 1v2 just because he has a fully stacked lethal tempo. This shows us the absolutely massive advantage that having runes like lethal tempo and Conqueror will give us in a long trade. But that's not the only class of runes that there are. You can break down runes into 3 categories. Our first category is going to be runes that ramp up over time and help us out in a long trade or an all-in, the power of which we've just seen in this past replay. Next, we have the runes that you can attribute to short trades and to poking. With these runes, you want to keep your trades short, disengaging after you've procced them, waiting for the cooldown, and then going in again. This becomes especially obvious when versing an opponent with runes more suited to an all-in. And finally, we have the utility runes. These don't provide much for you in the way of a straight up fight, especially early, and champions that take these runes are generally easier to bully and have to play around the fact that they're slightly weaker early. Keep in mind this is more of a general idea, and some of the runes used in all-in are also useful in poke, and vice versa. Feel free to pause the video, look at the runes, and think about how you should be trading when you use each rune. You can see in this comparison the difference between a rune like Electrocute and Lethal Tempo, with Electrocute giving you a small window to disengage while you're still ahead, whilst with a long trade rune like Lethal Tempo, you can eventually see that after a certain point, you'll end up overtaking and massively outdamaging other runes in a long fight. Let's see this concept in action. Watch in this replay as Fiora always prepares her grasp on minions before taking a trade, dashing in only to proc it and immediately disengaging so Renekton doesn't get the chance to stack up his Conqueror and win a long trade. Importantly, Fiora always waits for Renekton's Conqueror stacks to fall off before taking another trade. In this next trade, Fiora even waits for Renekton to walk up and last hit a minion, using that as an opportunity to proc her keystone. The result of all this is that Fiora has done almost 100 damage to Renekton with just her keystone in the first 2 waves. The idea of playing around your runes and waiting for them to be off cooldown is universal to all champions in League of Legends, especially for spellcasters. Your mana is a resource, and using your abilities while your runes are on cooldown when you could have waited is just a waste. Here, I use my Q instantly, but my mana flow band and comet aren't yet off cooldown. Instead, I can just wait the 1 to 2 seconds for my runes to come off cooldown before using Q to be much more efficient in my trade. Same exact concept can be applied to your defensive summoners. Here, I hook Sona while she has bone plating up. As you can see, it doesn't deal much damage. Whilst the next time I hook her, she doesn't have her bone plating up and I end up dealing a ton more damage. Start thinking of runes like bone plating, guardian, and to an extent aftershock as a sort of deterrent against enemies engaging on you. Take them when you verse a low range enemy who can't easily proc them, and play aggressive while you have them up and defensive while they're down. On the contrary, if you're the aggressor looking for an all-in, it's better to try and burn these cooldowns with some poke before committing into a trade. Going back to this clip, we can see after I burn Sona's bone plating, by clicking on it we can display this tab, which will show all the status effects your opponent has and their cooldowns. The exact same thing can be done for your allies, which is great in bot lane to see your AD carry or your support's cooldowns. This is the exact same trick that our Fiora player would have been using against their Renekton to keep track of how many Conqueror stacks he has and when they'll be falling off. This way, he'll know exactly when he needs to disengage and exactly when to re-engage. If Renekton had used the exact same trick, he could have seen Fiora's trades coming by knowing that her grasp was up and being ready to run back. So next time you go into load screen, take note of the runes and keystones, especially yours and your lane opponent. Ask yourself the question, do you want the trades to go short or long? Are there any abilities that you need to get out of the way first before going in? And do you ever have to make sure to have certain runes up before using your own spells? Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to subscribe, check out my other videos, and check the video description for links to all my socials, League of Legends guides, and coaching.